You're listening to the Nubian Narcissistic Abuse ICU podcast. The topic of this video is going to be love bombing because an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. We've heard that saying time and time again, right? So, narcissistic abuse retrains the way that you think. And anything that changes the way that you think, it'll control or modify your behavior. For empaths, love bombing is the most important red flag that's overlooked. The question is, why? Why do empaths, codependents, and other survivors of childhood traumas overlook that huge red flag? Well, first, because it doesn't show up as a red flag. The second question would be how. So let's talk about why we overlook that particular red flag as we're getting acquainted with this individual. While we're ignoring that stranger danger alarm that we only learn post discard that it was a red flag. That the individual you believed was your soulmate was in all actuality nothing more than a mirage. The first question would be, how love starved were you? A lot of survivors meet the narcissist at a point in time in their life when they're emotionally vulnerable. That makes you susceptible to the manipulation tactics of a malignant narcissist. It could have been a recent breakup, a divorce, death of a family member or a friend, a financial crisis, or it could have been a downgrade or an upgrade in your financial status that puts a target on your back, as well as pathological loneliness and boredom. However, it may also be due to there not being a clear line of demarcation between what is healthy and what is unhealthy in interpersonal relationships. Likewise, abuse, dysfunction, or what's toxic because of that having been the norm in one's food. That's the acronym for family of origin. With that being said, if the latter is your interpersonal relationship resume, a relationship with or a marriage to a narcissist will force you to revise it. That's after you take the hiatus to heal post narcissist. And a part of that hiatus to heal includes establishing healthy boundaries with an understanding of what a healthy relationship is and isn't. And it's the rebirth of a new you, because the old you, as you knew it, is no more. So your goal ultimately will be to reinvent or find you, the you that you lost in a relationship with a narcissist. Because there may be a part of you that was in search of a fairy tale ending. You remember the books that you read when you were a little girl and they lived happily ever after. Well, that doesn't happen with a narcissist, but that was a vulnerability that the narcissist was able to scan your interpersonal relationship resume that you submit unbeknownst to you. You believe you've met your soulmate, but it was actually a test to determine whether or not you'd be the perfect candidate to target to narcissistically abuse, a source of narcissistic supply. Women with healthy boundaries don't knowingly and willingly enter into a relationship with an individual that's going to abuse them, unless that has been the model of what a relationship is. But it isn't. And abuse isn't okay, ever. And that's whether it's physical or the absence of physical abuse. That means verbal, emotional, or financial, physical, and spiritual exploitation. So, why then and how does a narcissist love bomb? Well, that depends on that target and that particular narcissist and their hidden agenda based on what the need at that time and want, or what they believe that they will be able to manipulate that target into giving them, that they want or that they may need. But at the end of the day, that's actually the entrapment, the lure into a pathological liar's lair. When you recollect your own relationship resume, and that includes your family of origin, what was your heartfelt desire that was MIA from those relationships? Now, that could have been love, unconditional love. Was it having an intact family that was loving, caring, supportive? Were you in an intimate relationship with individuals that were emotionally unavailable? Because the reason why that's important to acknowledge whether or not that is your truth is because that's what the narcissist will mirror back to you as they're collecting data and downloading it all and saving it to weaponize once the love bombing stops. Because that's when the devaluation phase begins. They're not going to start the devaluation where, unbeknownst to you, they will begin a hurt and rescue cycle that worsens over time. Once the love bombing stops, that's it. That's the only time a narcissist will love bomb you, post discard. And that's whether the narc discards you or you discard. And that's generally because the woman leaves them because of their abusive behavior. The narcissist, however, discards their sources of narcissistic supply for a different reason. Now, if a narcissist post discard begins to love bomb you after ghosting you or punishing you with a silent treatment, that's not love bombing per se. That's actually called hoovering. And that's done with the specific intent of luring you back into the narcissistic labyrinth, their lair, if you will, to abuse you further. Especially if you were the one to leave and go no contact with the narcissist because of their abusive behavior, that becomes intolerable or unacceptable. Hindsight has 20/20 vision, yes? Absolutely. Because it's the hoovering attempts in retrospect that'll make it painfully obvious that the narcissist is 100% aware of what your expectations are in a relationship or in a marriage. They know what you love, what you like, what you dislike, what you value, what you need, and what you want from them and that relationship. They just make a conscious decision to play the takeaway game. They decide when they give it and they decide when they're going to take it away. It's about power and control and what they can do to maintain that power and control over that particular target. Because as you're being hovered, that's what the narcissist will attempt to bait you back into the relationship, rather the abuse cycle. That'll only get worse over time. They'll do the things that you wanted them to do or the things that you expected them to do when they're attempting to hoover you back in. And a lot of times, that's what leads to targets going back to the narcissist, despite the abusive behavior. They believe that they're genuinely sorry, that they're truly remorseful, and that they are going to be putting forth a legitimate effort to change the behaviors that are causing the discord in the relationship. But nothing can be further from the truth. You'll be thinking that he's coming back to you because he is just as invested in this fairy tale ending as you are. That you're just as much his soulmate as he is yours. Because, see, it's the fairy tale that they've convinced you would be your story, the happily ever after. They're convincing you that that's going to be your reality. So at the time, you're not seeing it as a fairy tale, because that's the purpose in part that love bombing serves, to mirror what your heartfelt desires are. That's the purpose of them love bombing. Because what happens is women tend to throw caution to the wind, let their defenses down, and because you believe that you have this connection with this individual, unlike any other relationship, you start disclosing things about your interpersonal relationship resume. You're making the narcissist privy to all of these things that are in your history. One day, it may be that you'll have that fairy tale, but it'll be after you take the hiatus to heal, learn healthy boundaries, and that starts with going no contact. Because after you've been involved with in a relationship with a narcissist, there's a trauma bond that has to be broken. That's only broken when you're going no contact with a narcissist. And by no contact, that means no communication. That means no calls. That means no texts. That means no emails. That means no sex. That means no contact via social media. And that includes looking on their social media to see what they're doing. Right? And the reason why that's important is that during that love bombing phase, that idealization phase of the narcissistic relationship, they're actually creating a learned dependency. The narcissist creates that by giving you the illusion, the mirage of being everything and anything that you've ever needed and wanted in an intimate relationship with a man. That's the hook. It's deeper and more complicated than If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. We've heard that all of our lives. Therefore, it's more than knowing that on a conscious level. That is not evident because that's not how it's manifesting. It's important to be mindful that although narcissists do have the same modus operandi, method of operation, there are different types of narcissists. There are same gender narcissists. And how they appear, again, depends on that particular narc and what they need or want at that particular time, the type of narcissist supply that they're actually in search of. Because there are also different types of narcissistic supply. So, mindfulness is necessary. Now, the definition of mindfulness is the quality or state of being conscious or aware of something. Now, another meaning is it's particularly helpful to us as empaths. And the definition reads as a mental state achieved by focusing one's awareness on the present moment while calmly acknowledging and accepting one's feelings, thoughts, and bodily sensations used as a therapeutic technique. And that's what makes it significant to us as empaths. In the age of modern technology, unknowingly we can become a narcissist target via social media, whether that's through social media, dating apps, or even in the narcissistic abuse community, posing as survivors and empaths. The other noteworthy um, aspect to be mindful of is that there's a cultural conditioning that's very relevant. Whether you're talking about what is love, genuine love, care, and concern. Because make no mistake about it, ladies, the lines that should be a clearly visible line of demarcation is blurred when it comes to what is an emotionally healthy and happy relationship, consequently, home. Culturally, not only are those lines blurred, but they're distorted, if not twisted. So, the foundation of taking a hiatus to heal starts with one, taking the hiatus to heal. Number two, healthy boundaries. Number three would be high self-esteem. A healthy level of narcissism, a healthy dose of narcissism that promotes and encourages self-confidence. So we definitely want to remain grounded in a state of mindfulness, especially on the internet. It becomes very easy to create a false sense of intimacy. And as a result, it's a false sense of security. So we want to mindfully avoid incessantly DMing, FaceTime, video chatting, texting, lengthy telephone conversations, even email, because that too can be an opening for seed planting and triangulation. And that'll be discussed in depth in an upcoming video podcast episode and blog post. Because mindfulness is a protection. What happens is that narcissists are almost the coup de grace of energy vampires. So they dysregulate empaths emotionally. A huge red flag that we often overlook very early on, in addition to love bombing, is an internal emotional conflict of interest that happens. The key is taking mental note of what you see and using your discernment to determine if it correlates with what you sense. For example, if an individual is seemingly outgoing, friendly, and pleasant, that's what you see. But it's an emotional conflict of interest with what you sense intuitively. That's a gauge for, I'm going to say that it should raise our antennas, or it's something for us to take note of, to pay attention to. Again, if what we see is not consistent with what we sense, the question is why that is. Why is there a conflict of interest internally with what you see versus what you sense? Because narcissists lack the ability to do any introspection. Moreover, they lack self-awareness to see themselves as others do. So, in a state of mindfulness, on a conscious level, we know narcissists engage in magical thinking. And what do I mean by magical thinking? A narcissist thinks, I believe it, therefore it is, even if it isn't. If they want it or need it, they will use every manipulation in the narcissist's manual, in their little handbook, the narcissist's Bible, to get it from the individual they target to get what they want and need from. With that being said, thank you for watching. I appreciate you for doing so. If you haven't subscribed, hit that red button, tap the top bell so that way you're notified when I upload, premiere, or go live. And if you found the video helpful and informative, pay it forward and share. Survivors, sharing is caring. Until the next video, podcast episode, or blog post, take care.